And you also work with one of our virtual assistants at Strictly Savvy as well. So again, you are letting go of some more control and handing over some work to them. So how does that role of the virtual assistant fit in with your business operations?
Well, I have a wonderful virtual assistant who works across both of my organizations,
Mhm.
both of my companies. And I would say, there are things that I am good at and there are things that I'm terrible at. And luckily for me, the things that I am terrible at are exactly the things that my virtual assistant loves and excels in. So
Mhm.
we have a very much a partnership relationship. Um, in terms of how that works, I believe that everybody who is part of the businesses that I run needs to understand and share some or all of the same principles. And so with the virtual assistant that I have, I talk a lot and we talk a lot about what are the next things for the company and why are we making these decisions. I absolutely bring all of my team, including the virtual assistant, into all of those kind of strategic level decisions, so that they really understand the vision for the organization and they have the opportunity to say, I could do this, here's how I can help to deliver on that vision. So the core day-to-day things might stay the same, but the work around the edges can wax and wane depending on the strategy of both companies.
Mhm.
And as we've developed a relationship and we've developed, more efficiency in our processes, then there's more opportunity and more time for some of those other things. And so the virtual assistant that I have has taken on many, many, many more responsibilities in all sorts of different areas than possibly they envisaged the first time we met. But I think of them as a fundamental part of my organizations, even though technically they work for you.
Yeah, no, that is our goal at Strictly Savvy as well, is to have our virtual assistant team be part of our clients' teams as well, because it doesn't have to just be a surface relationship. And like you say, if they understand the why behind the business as well, it empowers them to help you with more. And obviously, you're very busy with these two businesses. So the more that she can take off your plate, that's definitely the goal.
Definitely. And I mean, they're a good sounding board as well as a good reminder of, you said you wanted to do that thing and you haven't done it. And I'm like, oh, yes, you're right. But also, being a business owner can be a really lonely place.
Yeah.
I've cultivated relationships with other business owners so that I can have somebody to rant to, somebody to sort of sense check to, whatever. But I certainly would say that I use my virtual assistant for that as well. Like I've been thinking about doing this, or this isn't working. It's just helpful to have somebody who's in your corner.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the things that a lot of people struggle with as well is the actual specific tasks that they can delegate to virtual assistants, because a lot of the perception, I guess, is that it's just general admin work. So, would you mind talking us through some of the specific tasks that your virtual assistant's doing for you in the businesses?
Yeah. Okay. So let me do a little list here because the list just gets longer and longer every year that we go through. So general admin, recording invoices.
Mhm.
They work all the magic behind the zero accounts. They set up payments in the company bank accounts. They're a conduit for the other service providers that I need to rely on. So accountant, lawyer, bookkeeper, IT company. Once you set up a company, you realize that you're not a single entity. You have all of these connections. They issue invoices, they work with clients on logistics, and then for humans at work, they review the transcripts from all of the podcasts, they review the graphics. And we have a wonderful graphic designer that does a graphical journey for every podcast. And they do the first QA of all of those things for me, so that by the time I get to see them or I'm asked for approval, most of the work is done.
Mm.
And helping with some of the behind the scenes website work,
Mm.
um, as well as general scheduling. Quite often I'll also ask for research on particular
Mm.
projects, and so they'll go off and do a research project and come back with a written summary or a download of everything that they've found out. The list is kind of endless,
Yeah.
and I have to be fairly disciplined about saying, like, how much time and capacity do you really have in the next month, so that I can, schedule that in terms of those other projects. But if I tried to unwind the virtual assistant from both businesses, it would be extremely difficult, because
Mm.
they're a fundamental part of how things run every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you do an amazing job of not just the textbook tasks, actually having those outside the box tasks and things that will genuinely help you, because otherwise you were gonna have to do them yourself, like research. That's a great example. That's not something people would normally think of.
Absolutely. And I mean, I want work to be interesting and meaningful for everybody, and some of the tasks that I'm not good at, the reason I'm not good at them is that they're procedural, and
Mm.
they're the same every week or every month, and they're a little bit boring. And
Yeah.
so I don't want anybody's life to be, doing things that they find boring. So understanding why those things are important and what might be different about the context. I talk a lot about the sort of commercial context every week, give an update on what's happening, what are we bidding for, what's happening with the contracts, what's happening with the
Mm.
clients, so that they really understand that, making that invoice work, or setting up that meeting, or doing that research is fundamentally part of
Yeah.
what we're doing, and that brings more meaning. But also, I quite often say, would you be interested in doing this? Because, some people have particular areas that they're interested in. I don't think my virtual assistant has ever said no, because they're really keen to kind of learn and develop
Yeah.
and just do different things. It adds a bit of complexity and interest to, everyday work and life.
Mm, and because you've done such a good job building that relationship with her, she, yeah, genuinely wants to be involved with any task she can help you with, really.
Absolutely. And I mean, she also helps me with a bit of life stuff. I try not to call on her for that. And she's always happy to help.
Mm.
But she also knows almost everything that's going on with my life as well, because we are partners in the delivery of what's going on, as opposed to it being, sometimes I think people think virtual is kind of no face, no name,
Mm.
no contact. My experience is, the thing that's virtual is we're physically not in the same location,
Yeah.
but that's how I run my business anyway. We're
Mm.
we're 100% virtual. Both companies are 100% virtual, so it makes no difference to me at all, that they're not physically in the same place as me.
Mhm. What made you decide to start using a virtual assistant?
Well, I set up these two businesses, and I thought I could do everything on my own, as you always do, I think. And so I was getting up at 4 a.m. to learn how to do stuff myself and making an absolute pig's ear of it. And so after a few weeks of this, I thought, there has got to be a better way. I need to focus on the things that I need to focus on.
Yeah.
And so I did a little bit of research. I didn't want to employ somebody, because I didn't know how much time,
Yeah.
how much of their capacity I would need at that point. The businesses were still very new. But I'd heard of, the virtual assistant movement, if you like.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's a way of having that help and support, but not having to guarantee, a certain number of hours every week when I just had no idea what the work would be like. So the first thing I did is I got in contact with Strictly Savvy, and they took it from there basically. And actually what that did is it stimulated me to then say, well, I can't actually be my own IT tech either. And
Mm,
so then I engaged in a relationship with an IT company, and then
mm,
an accountant and a lawyer, and then
nice.
Strictly Savvy has also done and is continuing to do a lot of my creative work with my website and my monthly newsletter.
Mm,
So it sort of snowballed from there, and it's made the companies more than the sum of their parts,
mhm,
if that makes sense. Sometimes you think as a solopreneur, which I am with Humans at Work, that it's not good enough, but actually you have this network of people in other organizations who are all there working for the same cause. You become more than just one person. You've actually become a big collaboration that can do amazing things.
yeah. Is that how you imagined it would go at the start when you engaged with a virtual assistant?
No, not really. I mean, I thought that it would help me with things like administrative tasks and
Mhm,
paying my bills, to be honest, because
yeah,
those are the things that I'm just sort of it's not my skill set. It's not my strength. Or I can do them, but I find it really difficult to get myself into that headspace. So I thought it would be focused on that. And what it's turned out to be is um a relationship that I really value, and, a situation where they're kind of like, a core member of the team for both companies. And the fact that they do administrative and financial tasks is just one part of the contribution. And I didn't think it would be like that.
mm, yeah. Oh, well, it's also heartwarming for me to hear this as well, being one of our team.